Okay, then I guess we just start. There are a few topics on the agenda, action items from last week. Everything is done. Perfect. So then review workgroup changes. There are none. That's also easy. Then a few topics from the RFCs that have been accepted and where the implementation now started. The first one is service credential binding rotation for applications. We have here a tracking issue with some PRs linked, etc. And there was one thing that came up, how we deal with the situation once we have this feature enabled in the CF API. And if later we have also implemented everything in the CF CLI, then it's a round package. Everything will work as specified in the RFC, hopefully. But there can be situations where the CF API is already updated, but the user has still an old CF CLI, hasn't updated. That happens quite often. And then we would run again in this trap that we would incompatibly change the behavior of a bind service and of an unbind service operation. That was the last discussion on this RFC. If you run with an old CLI a service binding, you create a new service binding, you run this command, no CF service, that's not here. Then you would create a secondary binding. Today, you would, the operation is idempotent and would simply say, yeah, binding already exists, fine. But now you have a second, a third, a fourth binding, which is at least strange in pipelines. And even worse, if you unbind the service, then today, the service is unbound, it's gone. In the future, it would just delete the oldest binding, and that's also unexpected. So yeah, we discussed two different options how to deal with it. Let's go back here, that's smaller. One thing is to add an app feature flag so that you have to opt in per application whether you want to use service credential rotation, and then you know, I hope, and you will update your CLI and everything is fine. That's one option, but probably that also means that usage of this feature will be drastically less because you have to opt in. And the second option that we see is that we add a new parameter to the API post v3 service credential bindings. And this parameter you have to set in order to enable multiple bindings. That's actually similar to what we have written in the RFC, that we will have in a new CLI this bind service with a strategy multiple, and a similar thing we could add as a parameter that would make it compatible. Because then the old CLI would send without this parameter, we would treat that as before, so you can have only at most one binding. And if you want to have multiple, you have to set additionally this parameter. And of course, multiple bindings have to be enabled on this foundation. And that should work. That's actually our preferred solution right now. Yeah, maybe you read one more time through this issue, and if you have feedback, just add it here. Otherwise, we would continue with this additional parameter and add that to the API, and then we hope that we can work without incompatible changes. Should be the only point in the API where we have to explicitly say whether we want to have multiple bindings on it.
I guess one question is, so this is to guard against older CLIs. I guess if there is a new CLI, do we still need the flag? Can the newer CLI just set like the API parameter? Are we also looking to preserve the behavior of single bindings for the newer CLI as well? Is that why we want a flag?
Yes, actually, that was the last comment. Where do we have?
Oh, you're not sharing your screen, by the way, in case you.
Oh, that's always the same mistake. Okay.
We were following along.
No, that was a wrong PR. I want to go to this RFC text, and there is a section about it. That's actually CFCLI. Yeah. The idea here was that when we do, as in the past, a bind service without any parameters, we create an initial binding, and if we run it a second time, it will succeed with the message as today, new CLI, but as today, app is already bound, fine, so that we do not break scripts and everything is compatible. But if you want to have multiple bindings, then you would have to add this minus strategy multiple, and then you would create a second binding, and you can go into this rotation process. And actually, this parameter would then be handed over as an additional parameter also to the API. That's straightforward, I would say.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, then on the second RFC that we are currently running, that's the storage CLI. So, yep, we can look inside a bit. The current plan, what we want to continue is that we concentrate first on Azure, and we will implement in the existing Bosch Azure Storage CLI repository that is now in a new area where Kapi has also approval rights on it. We would add the missing operations and config parameters. Then we would implement the storage CLI provider in the cloud controller coding and allow the configuration for Azure. And then we can validate everything in Kapi CI on a new bubble environment for Azure. We have meanwhile an Azure account in the got by the CFF, so in the community. We haven't yet tried to set up a bubble, and that will probably also be problematic and requires changes in this bubble tooling. But yeah, we will see how that continues. And once we have all this validated, etc., then we would try to roll out this storage CLI provider on Azure in, for instance, some foundations at SAP, first internal ones, and just to see whether there are performance problems or if it works out. And once we have hopefully proven it on Azure, we would then start with a consolidation of the Bosch storage CLI implementations. That was something that the Bosch colleagues wanted to have. That means Azure, AWS, GCP, Ali Cloud, and WebDAV are currently 5 different Git repos. We wanted to bring that into one that contains all the CLIs for all YAS providers. And from then on, we would implement the missing operations and config parameters for the remaining YAS in this consolidated repository, and then one by one see how it works out. In an ideal world, we would be finished in end of Q1 26 when the Ruby 3.4 migration becomes necessary, because I heard there are some issues with this update. We will see. That's still open, but that's at least the rough plan. How to continue here. Good. Then cost saving. There is one final step, and I wrote on the ARI channel. This Friday, I'm going to delete the resources that are here under clarification, unless somebody vetoes and wants to keep something. But there's some Kapi test buckets from 24, probably some manual tests. So I don't think that this is needed. There's some, looks like a backup from the autoscaler team, some static IPs, and a VPC, and one single custom image that is also from very old time. And so if you then find out that you will need it and it got deleted, then you have to reset it up again. But it's testing, so it should not be a problem. Good. On the Kapi side, we had a regression. You noticed probably in 1.25 14 where space quotas for service instances were broken. So here we counted all service instances of the whole foundation instead of just of the space. And that means, yeah, basically nobody could create service instances if space quotas were used. That's fixed in the 2.15 release. Postgres 17, that's something that we want to drive. However, we are still missing a Postgres release. I know that some SAP colleagues are working on it, but there's an issue with, I don't know, creating this Bosch release and get it validated. Yep, then there was an interesting PR on file-based service bindings. There was a change in this service binding spec that allows underscores in the credential names, which is nice. It has been adapted, but now there is a further discussion because there are special credentials that are generated by Cloud Controller, like binding name. And since in the past, the underscore was not allowed, so in VCAP services, it's really called binding underscore name. It gets now translated to binding minus name. And that's, if we now allow underscore, that's inconsistent somehow. And yep. The question is, should we do it? The feature is still marked as experimental. It has probably very little usage so far. I know at SAP there are some usage of file-based service bindings, but they all use this VCAP services file, not the Kubernetes version. So actually, I would be in for doing this change. Then it's consistent, and yeah, if we want to change it, then now in the very beginning when it's still experimental, if it's used a lot, then probably we are not able to change it anymore. So if there are no objections, I could ask on the copy channel one more time, then I would go for it and ask this Tom Kennedy 513 to create a PR because he offered to do it.
Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah, then Sam, your PR regarding the response code for create manifestive, that was actually just the documentation that is wrong. Yeah, reviewing it, I found out, well, it should not be a 201, but a 200. And actually, this is also still an experimental endpoint, so we could change it. I would say if we don't break CLI V8 with the change, why not doing it? I mean, there are not that many other clients that will do a manifestive, I would guess. And if so, then they have to be changed. If we would break the CLI, yeah, well, then probably it's not a good idea.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was like still it's experimental. I guess Shwetha, you're on the call. I just suppose you know offhand if the CLI interrogates like response codes to that level.
I don't think so. I'll have to look into it more, but we don't. Whatever Cappy sends, that's what we care about.
Yeah, in which case, I guess if it's experimental, then I'm in favor of changing it.
Yeah, let's try it out. I mean, we will see it immediately in the cuts, right? If it's broken or not, and if it's broken, okay, then it is as it is. But if we can change it, then it's
yeah. I can update this PR to change it.
okay. Cool, thanks. Then there's something added. The GitHub Cloud Foundry CF Open API experimentation.
Yeah, just me and Florian and a few others have just been working on this open API spec for the Cloud Controller APIs. So this is the repository for anyone who hasn't seen it, and it's under. I don't know, we're currently iterating pretty heavily on it. It's clearly marked as experimental because there's plenty of gaps.
Yeah.
And the specification is, I don't know, like 15,000 lines or something. It's huge with a lot of, and with it fairly normalized and broken into components and reused. So there's still a lot to do. But yeah, we're like chipping away on this and got some interesting ways to validate the the specification, capturing requests and responses and running them against the schema, things like that. But yeah, I guess the hope is that this will be useful for clients.
Yeah, that's cool. We talked about it today in the TOC meeting and started the final comment period about this RFC. So yeah, that
Great.
is on the road. Cool. Yeah, and there are, 3 more proposals under discussion: the enhanced stack handling and provide custom stacks functionality. Yeah, that would be a good thing to discuss about. Unfortunately, there's nobody else here. For stack handling, it's difficult to read it. There's the idea to add a state to each stack where we can deprecate a stack and disable it, and also prevent staging or to prevent it from usage in new apps, but keep it for old apps, because that's something, it's helpful to avoid further usage of the stack, but it's always difficult to break existing customers, and that's how you can limit usage of old stacks. I'm talking here about things like CF Linux FS3 since 2 years out of maintenance, but it is still used. Yeah. And the second one is this custom stack functionality, where the proposal on the table is to use a Docker image as a stack. That would then be, for instance, a means if we really remove a stack and there is still, let's say, 1 or 2 customers who are using it and who insisting it, and we have a means for de-escalation. We can say, yeah, look, there's a Docker repo, use as one stack. It may have some disadvantages, but that's what we can offer. That should be good enough, because in the end of the day, you have to update your stack. I mean, you are so full of CVEs, that's not a good idea. Yeah, and we talked already about it, the Open API RFC. So if you want to have some things changed in this RFC, now is the time. Next week we probably will merge it.
Can I just ask, can we just go back to the regression that's in 1.2.1.4? So in the release notes, it says it affects the like this new v3 space grid usage summary endpoint. But I heard you say that it affects quotas, which is quite, a lot more serious.
It is actually, it's the same query use. You see it in this usage summary. It's the wrong number, but exactly the same query is also used to determine whether you are exceeding your space quota. Now, space quotas are, at least in our experience, not used that much. It is used, but not that much. Org quotas are mandatory, at least in our foundations, but space quotas is something where we say, okay, customer, if you want to have some, create them. If not, we don't care. But we had some internal on our staging landscapes, and they complained, and then we found this regression. So yeah, it's not just space summary endpoint, but it's also space quotas.
Okay, I might update this release note.
Yeah.
So just to understand, so it reports all the services in the foundation. So if you're using space quotas with service instances, you just won't be able to create. You likely won't be able to create any new services in your space.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I could update this just to make that a little clearer, and then yeah, I didn't realize it had that sort of impact. But yeah, so it's fixed in the next release. So it's
fixed in the next release in 2.15, so you should not use 2.14 is the message. Okay. Good. That's basically what I had on the agenda. Any topics you want to talk about?
Yeah, I came to say hi. I'm Daniel. I now work on the CF Java client part-time, and SAP is assigning more people to be approved on that project. So we're slowly thinking of transitioning it outside of Broadcom infrastructure. So it's a little bit more open, because currently everything runs in our own concourse, our it's published to Maven Central repository with Broadcom accounts and so on. And so we've started donating that Maven Central group to the CF Foundation. And I was thinking about the infrastructure next. And so what we have is a simple pipeline, runs on core course. And since the CF Java client, I guess similar to the CF API, or CF CLI, sorry, it's very disruptive to a foundation when we run our tests. We tend to destroy things or delete, create, and so on. And so we create foundations for the tests, temporary foundations. And I was wondering, I wanted to find out a little bit what you do, what kind of tools are available, what you use, and do an initial survey. What we could do.
Okay, what exists and what you can probably also use. There is a concourse owned by the working group. That's where the copy pipeline actually runs on. Let's see if I can show that. Copy. I don't have it here. Let me just see it. Where's Ari concourse here? Here we go. That's a concourse of Up Runtime Interfaces working group. It's set up on a Kubernetes cluster in one of these, I think on the GCP account owned by Ari. So that is community, and also there's a repository in, I think, infrastructure, something area where you could look up. We can create teams here. So currently there's a copy team, but there will be very soon also teams for build packs, and that can be added, and then you can log in here if you have approver rights in your area. So using the standard GitHub authentication, and once you have that, you can upload pipelines, etc. So it is, since the copy pipeline is not also pretty big and runs with tons of bubble environments, so this concourse should be fat enough to handle additional pipelines. That should work. There are some ideas long term to move this concourse or pipelines of this concourse to a central one that is provisioned one day by the concourse working group, but all this doesn't exist right now. So maybe this concourse is a good starting point. Now we have an AWS and an GCP, and meanwhile also an Azure infrastructure account for the Ari working group, in which you could create bubble environments. So for copy, we do that on currently AWS and GCP. We also use short-lived environments. That's also a good idea from cost-saving point of view. That means in every pipeline run, we create the bubble environments, run our tests, and then destroy them again. Or destroy means we destroy the CF deployment, the environment. That means jump box plus I think the Bosch director remains. It's probably the same setup that you use also for your tests.
No, because we have we have an internal infrastructure team that provides pooled environments.
Okay, that's different,
So we don't have to stand up our own deployments.
But let's say this copy pipeline is maybe a good starting point to look inside. So there are also concourse tasks that help spinning up bubble environments and shut them down and do all that. In order to gain access, on GCP, we have we use a service called the Secrets Manager, in which we have the root secrets, so that you can get access to the YAS accounts, and there are also some emails and that you may need. For instance, for AWS, you need have two-factor authentication, and it sends you back an email, and this email is a Gmail account with the name of the Ari working group, and the password for this Gmail account is, that's sometimes a bit cumbersome, but that's the best what we have. And I can grant you access to the secret manager. We do that, let's say, for a few approvers from a working group. So you should be approver. So there's nothing, and maybe you talk inside your area who should get these rights. You can do a lot of bad things with these,
Yes.
obviously. So you have the full infrastructure for the working groups then in your hands with
Right.
access of the secret manager. So yeah, but there's
Okay.
no more fine granular access
I
control at the moment.
it's a small team, so once I
Yeah.
get to know I mean it's Broadcom and SAP, so it
Yeah.
should be fine. Cool. And you said to get access to this concourse, so it will be through some GitHub automation by being in a group. Do I need to be?
Yep. Let me. I have to look up the name of the repository where it's located. This one. Upfront infrastructure. Let's go. So this is the setup. There's a lot of documentation. Jochen Ehret is here, the one with most knowledge, currently in vacation, but comes back in September. And here somewhere, where was it? I think in Terra Grant, you have the configuration of this. Here. I have to find it out. Somewhere in these files, that's all automatic.
Right.
You have you can configure the teams in Concourse. So we need a
Okay.
commit in this repo and then deploy it, and that's it. And then
Okay.
all this is created. That
And you
should not be.
mentioned a team will be created for build packs.
That's at least I granted recently the access to the secret manager to two colleagues from an SAP team that want to maintain, I think, Python and Node.js build pack.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that
All right.
is in progress. They are already. So if I search here for, let's say, Python, that's something that, no, that was not a good word. Let's go build pack. No, I don't find it. Here we go. This is a file. And here you have the Concourse GitHub team.
I
And
see.
this is obviously a Concourse format where you can add teams to Concourse. And we have currently Autoscaler, Kapi, and then also build packs for Node.js. And
Okay.
yeah, and that's easy to add here another team, and then you have access to your pipelines.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, very good. So I don't know when we will be doing this because we all have 5 million things to do, but
yeah, but it makes a lot of sense,
right.
to move there.
To the community,
And
yeah.
also Greg can, of course, grant you access to this secret manager. That's where it starts with the rights, and then.
Okay, cool. That's great. Perfect. Thank you. That is very useful. All right. That's all I had.
Okay. Then thanks a lot, and see you in 4 weeks, maybe. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm from CLI team. So we were thinking of moving the AWS buckets for where our release artifacts are stored to over Cloud Foundry Foundation maintained AWS account. So I was wondering what the process would be for that. How do I get access to that account? Where do I get started? We don't have any concrete plan yet, but it has been going around for a while.
From the ARI working group, what you could do is to create this S3 bucket in the AWS account that is owned by the ARI working group. I don't know if there's an additional account on the CF Foundation across all working groups, but I don't know if
Yeah.
it's necessary. You could use the AWS account for ARI and create there a bucket. And the procedure is basically the same. You need access to this GCP secret manager, and in the secret
Okay.
manager, you find the credentials, how to access the AWS console. That's a bit tricky, but all the secrets are inside. And once you have logged into this AWS console, you can create an S3 bucket via the AWS UI. And
Okay. I think I have access to GCP secrets, but I'll have a look into that. Thank you.
And if in doubt, again, Greg has the full rights and can, of course, here also help. It's maybe easier than
Yeah. Sure.
playing it across us.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Then have a nice day and
You
see you.
too.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.